County Administrator. As was said, I've been in this position for 8 years. I am an attorney by training. After graduating from college, I attended law school, and when I was waiting to get my bar results, I took an internship in Pierce County in the Public Works Department, and that set me on a 35-year career in county government. I spent 25 years in Pierce County in a number of different positions before coming to Kitsap. It was kind of serendipitous coming to Kitsap because I saw the job announcement and called about it and found out that they had already hired someone. And I thought, okay, well, that wasn't meant to be. But then I saw the announcement show up again, and I thought, okay, well, it's now meant to be. I'm ready for a change. I'm ready to step up and take what I've learned over the years and apply it in a different organization. It's been a rewarding experience, and it's been a great opportunity for me to grow as an individual, as well as see some great talent come through our county. And so the county administrator, it has kind of evolved over the years. I'm going to share my screen. As was noted, there are external facing departments and internal facing departments. The external facing departments are community development, human services, public works, parks, and those departments report to the three-member board of county commissioners. My position has administrative services, which is responsible for budget, human resources, information services, facilities, and noxious weeds, which is an add-on of late. I assist the emergency management department. Emergency management is a little bit of a hybrid in that it exists by interlocal agreement to serve not just the county, but also the cities. But the county does provide the lion's share of the budget for emergency management. And as you can imagine, that department has been very, very busy in the last 2 years. They stepped up during the pandemic and worked closely with the health department in establishing not only vaccination clinics, but also testing sites in the county. And as and also our quarantine and isolation sites that were very, very active during the early days of the pandemic. I also interface with all of the other electeds, not necessarily on a daily basis, but I make myself available to them if they have questions or seeking briefings with the Board of County Commissioners. You will note that the coroner is listed on the top of the chart, and that position will be going away in 2023 as the voters approved moving from a coroner form to a medical examiner form. So that elected position will be going away, and Dr. Harrell, who is our current forensic pathologist, will become the medical examiner. So that's one change that will be sure to note in the new update to the voter guide. A number of these positions are up for election in 2023: the auditor, the treasurer, the sheriff, the assessor, and the clerk. They're all up for election, as well as our district court judges and Commissioner District 3. Commissioner Wolf has made the decision that he is not going to run again. So on a day-to-day basis, we'll take today, for example. Today was kind of a different day in that we didn't have any briefings today. I usually sit in on the commissioners' briefings. I'm going to stop sharing this. The commissioners have briefings on Mondays in the morning and the afternoon, and on Wednesdays for the morning. This week we did agenda review this week we had a briefing from one of the departments. We've been scheduling regular updates with all the departments to come in and brief the board on issues of concern and emerging issues that are occurring around the county. I monitor the calendars of the commissioners very often. I'm scheduling either briefings or executive sessions to make sure that the prosecutor's office, if they have a legal issue, can come in and brief the commissioners on issues. Today, I had a briefing with our IS manager, information services manager, to talk about some contractual issues. Our HR director is currently at a conference making a presentation. She's probably talking about our retention and recruitment incentive policy that we put in place that I can speak to more. Today I've been drafting ordinances. I've been working on correspondence, and basically kind of taking anything that a lot of people may not know where to go. And so very often I'll get inquiries about, do you know where we keep the commissioner's records from 1857? And so it's a little bit of everything. It's been a great opportunity for me to not only take what I've learned in Pierce County and bring it to Kitsap, but it's also allowed me the opportunity to really get to understand more about government, more about government budgeting. And it's been a wonderful experience, and I've appreciated every moment. I think I'll stop there. I have a list of questions that I can certainly get into, or I can answer any questions on the material that I've provided so far.
Okay, so we can all come in, turn on your audio and your video, and just have a conversation. I am Maureen Servinsky. I am the unit leader. When I joined the League in 2018, I went to Paulsbo because there was no meetings in Bremerton. And I said, well, why aren't there? And they said, well, you want to do it? So that's what you get for asking a question. But we've had a great time and learning and growing. So I appreciate the good friendships that I've formed and all the learning that's taken place for me. I want to ask you what the greatest changes you've seen in Kitsap government in the 8 years that you've served.
Greatest change. I was reflecting on that today. We haven't had a change in commissioners in 8 years. So I've gotten very comfortable with the leadership in our electeds. I would say that from a societal standpoint, the greatest change I think has been the advent of social media. I think we as a county, and I always hark back to the early days, of course, you get a letter, you respond to the letter. And now with social media, you get a tweet, and before you know it, the tweet's been spread and you're not able to get ahead and explain what's happened or or debunk the myth or the half-truths that were included. And so early on, we pretty much made the determination of we're never going to spin. That's just a thing of the past. So it's incumbent upon us as a government is if we hear something or if we see something on social media, how can we put the information out there that will help people educate themselves and get familiar and seek additional information. So I think the speed in which information or disinformation traveled has been the one big change that is something that I'm sure we've all had to adjust to, but it's been a challenge.
Absolutely. Robin, did you want to?
Sure, I will go. First of all, Karen, thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate it. I know I can tell that you're a very busy woman. That's just like an understatement. But anyway, so I was sitting here thinking, I mean, over 8 years, a lot has changed. What do you see as probably one of the two, one or two most important issues that are facing Kitsap County?
For Kitsap County government, it's a labor shortage. I don't think anyone wakes up saying, I think I'm going to be a county planner when I grow up. And so we're seeing shortages in certain labor classifications. Our skilled workers, our employees with commercial driver's license, our engineers, our planning staff, and our corrections and sheriff's deputies, we're having issues with recruiting and retaining those positions. Currently, we have about 129 positions that are vacant. I was looking this month at how many hires we've made and how many terminations, and we've had 22 hires and 16 terminations. So as fast as we hire people in, we're losing people out the door. A lot of those are retirements. And so the silver tsunami that everybody talked about is occurring. So we work hard at bringing in people who may be just coming into the industry or to their profession, and we do everything we can to train them up. Very often what we see is people get trained up and they get poached by other jurisdictions. And so we just kind of assume that's going to happen because most millennials and younger generations are going to want experience. They're going to want to get as much as they can, and they're going to move on to another opportunity. And that we just have to accept as being the common course going forward. The other problem, of course, is what we're seeing in the world, what we're seeing in the ripple effects in terms of gas prices. And it's not just what we put in the tank, but it's the petroleum products that we use when we pave a street or pave a road, even when we're chip sealing. Those materials are going to increase in price. Our construction projects are going to increase in price. And related to that, even without the materials issue, we were seeing increases in what I call mega projects. These are the large public works projects that you'll see around the county, whether it's a fish passage culvert or a bridge deck. Those projects are getting more and more expensive. So our construction fund, our road fund dollars are getting stretched pretty far. So we'll have to figure out how we can leverage those dollars going forward, or whether we bond against a road tax so that we can continue to provide those improvements that keep us concurrent with development. So that's a long-winded phrase of saying infrastructure matters. And so as the federal government rolls out their infrastructure bill, we'll probably see more and more competition for existing staff as private companies hire engineers, hire construction managers, construction inspectors. It's going to get challenging for us to maintain our current workforce.
I'm going to ask a follow-up if that's okay. Yep. Are we, because of, we're a small county, our budget compared to other counties is not going to be obviously as large. Is that a hindrance in terms of number one, hiring, and then number two, the contracting that has, our costs increasing faster than the rate of inflation, or?
You're absolutely right. We're a small county. We rely on property tax, sales tax, and intergovernmental transfers for our budget. Property tax, and sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole, but property tax is pretty stable. We see minor fluctuations with about 1% as to what we're allowed under state law. What we are dependent upon is sales tax. And for us, it's Silverdale, it's a little bit of Gorst, but it's mainly Silverdale. And so before the pandemic, we were watching big box sales. We were watching with interest as to what was happening in the big box stores. But once the pandemic hit and life changed and we shut down, the surprising thing we saw was our sales tax numbers went up. And they went up considerably because people were shopping online and because they were going to Home Depot because they wanted to do home improvements or yard work or that sort of thing. And I can show you a dashboard approach that we take that will track how we're performing on sales tax. But that was a big surprise to us. What's called destination sales tax really helped us as a county. So instead of the sales tax going to where the product was manufactured, the sales tax of where the item was delivered is what's applied. So we benefited greatly from the great online shopping that people did during the shutdown because that sales tax came to Kitsap County. So we exceeded our estimates for sales tax revenue by I want to say about 12%, and we're holding on to that money to put into our fund balance, but also I have applied it to what we call our retention and recruitment incentive program. Somewhat dramatic in the sense that because we are a small county, what we saw was the larger counties poaching from us, and which didn't seem fair. But what happened was you had King County close an entire building next to King Street Station and tell all their people, you can now work from home forever, as long as you want, which seemed to me very detrimental to the businesses around King Street Station, but so before, we didn't really view King County as a top competitor because most people would have to take the ferry across to go to work. And we assumed that we wanted to capture people who were really interested in living and working in their same county. So, but what the pandemic did was we all pivoted to working online. So you could work from Iowa or Montana or anywhere in the world or in the country and work for King County because they weren't requiring people to come and actually physically be in the office. So we saw people leave for King, for Pierce, and then we started to see people leave for adjoining cities within Kitsap who were paying more. We have a compensation structure that has pay bands, about, I want to say 38 pay bands. Each pay band has 15 steps. There's 2.5% between each step. We spent a lot of time and effort establishing the compensation structure, which at the time was comparable in market to our comps, our statutory comps, which are Thurston County, Clark, and a bunch of other counties. We know we need to refresh that compensation study, and but it's not the year to do it because things are so cattywampus right now. So we wanted to take the time to do the deep dive and analysis to do the right study and to gather the right data and hopefully let the labor market die down a bit. But we were still seeing people in that not senior level, but mid-range level leaving us. So what the commissioners decided to do was to establish a retention program, particularly for our law enforcement and our corrections. What we're trying to do is incent people to stay. So for our corrections officers and for our deputies, we are going to pay them $10,000 if they agree to stay for 2 years. We're hoping that's going to incent some correction officers who are retiring to put retirement off for a couple of years. We're hoping that it will also apply to deputies, that there'll be some deputies that will say, rather than leave, I'm going to stay in order to get the benefit of that retention pay. We've also implemented signing bonuses, particularly also for sheriff's deputies. For us, it's easier to bring on a deputy from another jurisdiction that's gone through the academy, that's been trained, with a better return on investment for us. We provide them with a signing bonus to incent them to come to Kitsap than if we bring them on as a new recruit, wait for them to go through the academy, wait for them for a year to go through street training with a senior deputy, and then go out on the street on their own. We're also applying recruitment bonuses for our hard to fill positions. So believe it or not, we're having a hard time getting court reporters. So that's probably one that we'll look at for applying the recruitment incentive. We're having a hard time finding juvenile detention officers. We're having a hard time finding human services professionals who are focusing on child psychology or on drug and alcohol treatment. So we're trying to incent people not just to stay, but also try to look at us as an employer of choice. We are kind of bordered on both sides by much larger counties that have a more diverse revenue stream than we do. So we had to kind of get creative. We know that this program is going to be costly, but we have the sales tax revenue that we've been experiencing for the last 2 years. And we have a fairly good fund balance that we can rely on, but we also have been telling the departments this will have an impact in years 2025. So if you can avoid it, don't ask for new positions, because our largest cost center is people. And so we know going forward that our retention and recruitment program is going to have a ripple effect down the road that we're going to have to address. Did I answer your question?
You did. No, I think this is hugely important. It's tough. It's tough. Do other panelists have questions first?
Sure, I'll jump in. Linda Streiskuth and Karen, it's so great to see you. I'm going to say thank you for being here tonight, but more important to me, thank you for continuing to work for our citizens at Kitsap County for the last 8 years. A little history, I had the privilege of hiring Karen when I was a commissioner in 2014. And these days, I split my time between Kitsap County and Arizona. When I'm here in Kitsap County, I spend most of my time volunteering, gardening, golfing. In Arizona, I'm a realtor, so I usually go to work when I go south.
Okay.
So again, it's so fun for me to see you, and I'm having flashbacks as you're talking about the compensation studies and labor issues, because we were very much embroiled in that.
That's right.
When I left.
That's right.
So my maybe first question is, I knew very well what the vision was in 2014 when you came to the job, and I'm curious to hear how your responsibilities have changed over the last 8 years, and what are the most significant changes in what you're doing day in, day out.
And for one, thank you very much. I appreciated that you put your faith in me 8 years ago when you were on the other side of the table in the interview panel. And thank you also for decorating my office before you left.
You're welcome.
All the pictures, I look at them every day and I think of you, because if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have anything on my walls. It's 8 years has gone by in a flash, and I think back to my first day, and what's probably changed is probably due to the pandemic. We pivoted in March of 2020 to a third of our workforce going online, and we leverage just about every tool we can get our hands on to make sure that we maintain connectivity. So we're Zooming, we're teaming, we're using Microsoft Teams. We're collaborating using Microsoft Teams, sharing documents, and then in the midst of the pandemic, we decided to bring on a new financial system. So that was a big change as well, but what it did though was provided someone like me with a tremendous view into what's happening in the organization. where are people going? You know, how many people are we losing? How many people are using sick leave? How many people are taking advantage of emergency leave? It gives me real-time data as to what's happening in a particular budget. So to be successful in this job is to understand that you can't be afraid of technology. And so I remember when we moved to shutting down, we had to close offices, of course. At that time, no one knew the contagion or what the risk was to be in an office environment. That required us to keep present or keep track of what the health department was doing, what the proclamation the governor was issuing. It also required us to go all virtual with our board meetings. So our briefings went to Zoom. Our board meetings went to Zoom. We had to make sure that we maintained the transparency to the public. And so at one point, I distinctly remember I took a picture because I sent it to my family. I had 2 computers going, a laptop, my cell phone, because I was texting department directors to log on so they can make their presentation. So technology, yeah, that's that's been the game changer, and that's something that whoever comes in behind me will have to be comfortable with and embrace fully.
I could speak up next. I'm Denise Justice, and I'm a lifelong resident of Kitsap County. So I do appreciate people like you who are dedicated and committed to our county. It's wonderful to have you. And just listening to how you describe your day, I can imagine there's never 2 days that are the same, and that there's always something new and challenging coming your way. So I'm just curious, what do you most enjoy about what you do?
Oh, it has to be the variety. There are days when you plan. There are days when you I'm a list maker, so I'll make my list. I want to do this, and then I'll look back at the end of the day and realize I didn't do any of that. Part of that, it could be my fault because sometimes I go down rabbit holes and I'll go and think, oh, that's really interesting. I'll go look at this and what did we spend on that, and so before you know it, it's kind of like, oh, okay, I've wasted part of the day. My fault. I make up for that by staying a little later. I don't mind. I'm an empty nester right now, so it's just my husband and my dog, and she doesn't talk to me. So I don't mind staying a little late as long as, and I will stay late to avoid trying to work on the weekends. So I am really blessed though to have, with the exception of one, I've been involved in the hiring of all the department directors that are underneath the county administrator. And to a person, I have tremendous amount of trust in their professionalism and their capabilities. They know what to elevate. They know when they can wait and for regular check-in meetings. We chat on Teams. We send each other emails. So it's important to have, they give me that ability to relax and embrace my day because I know they have my back, and it's been tremendous. Probably one of the things that, one of the questions was, what are you the most proud of? I am most proud of the recruitments I participated on, but also the departures. I've had some people move on to great opportunities, and I felt really proud to be able to encourage them to take that next leap, to not let their doubts get in the way, and just kind of be that cheerleader to say, you can do this. You know, I know it's for another jurisdiction or it's in the private sector, but I know you can do this. And there have just been so many tremendous people that I've come to know at Kitsap, and their success is what I'm most proud of.
Wonderful.
Well, I have a question. I'm Janice McLemore, and I've been a member of the league since this unit started. And I don't really understand how the development and improvement of broadband works in rural areas. And I noticed that you part of your domain is computer and network services. Is
Mhm.
Cable Franchise Authority part of that? And how does that work with broadband? And
So with all utilities, they have to get a county franchise in order to operate in county right away. And so we have a relationship with a number of cable providers, but broadband is, in this county is within the domain of Kitsap Public Utility District.
okay.
So they're actively planning on reaching out to unserved and underserved populations with new technology or new, I can't what they call it. It's not antennas, but it's I forget the doohickeys the doohickeys that allow internet to go farther. We're partnering with them because the county received a considerable amount of federal funds, the American Rescue Plan dollars, and those dollars are required to be earmarked to expand broadband. So we're partnering with Kitsap Public Utility District to fund those improvements that will help the underserved and the unserved, because we have an awareness that just like a county employee can work anywhere, there's also those tech entrepreneurs, there's those Microsoft employees who are living in Kitsap who depend on broadband. So we'll be working to provide better service to them, as well as to those underserved households that are relying on broadband internet services for their education. So, I remember the total dollar amount, but broadband expansion is one of those things that's very popular right now. So our ARPA dollars, American Rescue Plan Fund dollars, are coming in. There are other pots of money that are coming in. There's grants and money coming in for social services, for mental health, for housing the homeless. There's just a lot of money sloshing around, and we like to say the money comes with responsibilities, in the sense that it's one thing to just hand it out and say, okay, great, go do what you said you were going to do. But we as the funder need to maintain records, need to maintain reports, need to report on how we spent the money, how many people were served. So we're rolling out our funding slowly, but we want to make sure that once the audits come in, and we know we will be audited, that we can justify every dollar that we spend.
So I'd like to follow up a little bit on that. So, and I guess I kind of had a thought that everybody knew this but me, and I'm just curious how, so do the cable, if a broadband is developed in an area, does that give people access to that cable, to a cable company?
They would still have to go to a cable provider.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so think of KPUD as providing the underlying infrastructure, and then but they won't be a retail provider.
So the cable will provide that.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it's Wave or Comcast.
And does
KPUD?
Yeah, does it cover the whole county, or is it just?
But I think it covers most of the county, and they also provide water services in a portion of the county as well.
So is it the parts of the county that aren't in a city? Is it or is it include the whole?
You know, can I send you something afterwards?
Sure.
Because I know I want to get their service map to show you.
Oh, that would be. I could probably get it online as well, couldn't I? If I looked up KPUD.
Yeah.
It'd be great for our book.
Actually, they just have a new executive director, Angela Bennick. She'd be great to talk to. She took over from Bob Hunter and has been at KPUD for a number of years. She'd be fabulous, I'm sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight, too.
Well, thank you for having me.
The other question we had is it sounds like you really are, your service is internal to the government. Mm-hmm. And so your responsibility isn't really to the public, but you do, under your domain is the Kitsap One phone line. Mm-hmm. And how much is that used, and how well is it publicized?
Most of our external facing web pages have the Kitsap One phone number on them, and that's staffed by customer service employees who have what are called call flows. And so and they also work with district court to schedule hearings or intake information or answer questions on their general line. The assessor goes through Kitsap One. DCD uses Kitsap One to schedule inspections. So we try to use Kitsap One as kind of like the front line of where you start for information. And very often I'll get referrals from Kitsap One. Hey, we don't know how to answer this question. Can you? And so we publish Kitsap One's number in all of the things that we push out through what's called Gov Delivery, which is a subscriber-based system. So every time you hit our web page, our homepage, you'll probably get that little box that people find annoying that says, would you like to subscribe for Gov Delivery or notifications? And you can go in and choose what you want to subscribe to. And it's very granular. You could get inclement weather, you can get planning issues, environmental issues. And so you can elect to see or not see a lot. And when we push out articles through Gov Delivery, what it does is it pushes out to subscribers, and we have about 70,000 subscribers right now. And so it'll hit all the social media pages. It'll hit all of those, Facebook, Twitter. And I think we also have a bit of a next door presence as well. And candidly, as we talk about all of the ways that we try to communicate, my big concern on the back of my mind is the generation that isn't fluent with technology. And they're a bit of a challenge in the sense that keeping them informed is even before the pandemic, even before the advent of the internet, it has always been a real challenge. And we tend to get a lot of people who want to call and want to speak to a person. And so Kitsap One can provide that to them. Sometimes there's a bit of a wait time because we have only so many customer service operators, but we like the fact that if you wait, if you're patient, you can actually talk to a person.
Great, thank you for answering that. And we were just kind of curious where your office is. We're not going to come and
Oh yeah,
we're just kind of curious.
I'm in Port Orchard, which is the county seat. I'm at the County Administration building, which is on the 4th floor. If you come in off a Division, people often look around and say, what floor is this? It's actually the 3rd floor if you come on off Division, and the Commissioner's chamber is off to the right. There's a little stairway that goes up to the left, and that's for the Commissioner's office.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're changing your domain.
Yes.
So, yeah. So I was looking at, researching things, and even PDFs have the old domain. So will all of that somehow transfer over to the .gov?
Yeah. So we're going from, say, my email used to be Karen Goon, co.kitsap.wa. So we're going to a shortened, abbreviated kitsap.gov. We had to ask permission of a regulatory agency, and once they, you actually had to fill out a paper form and mail it to them, which seemed kind of crazy. But now that we have the ability to do that, we're rolling it out slowly. We started with outbound emails, and then we're working with departments to look at where they're going to need to change their stationery, where they're going to need to change their web page. Fixing broken links is one thing that will take a bit of time. So it should be a seamless transition, and we're hoping that it'll help people remember if they want to reach out by email, and hope that they'll be able to remember that email or that web page address better than the one that is now. Lindy, you probably remember what the web page looked like when in 2014. Very dense, very text heavy, and we've really tried to streamline our front page to make sure that there's information there that people want to know. And so we comb it every once in a while to make sure that the question that gets asked the most is prominently there. For a while, the most prominent question was, where do I find the jail roster? Which always kind of struck me as really interesting. Who's in jail? Okay.
Not my first question.
So do you have, so this is just our issue is, we're working on this booklet and we do want it. Initially, we will make it online, so it'll be easily correctable, but we would like to have a booklet that is in print and be reasonable about putting in information that's not going to go obsolete in 6 months, because it's not going to get a revision for quite a while after that. So is there like some target date when this would be like wrapped up, or you said it's gradual, so
yeah, I think we're hoping to have things done by the end of the year, if I remember correctly.
Well, that's reasonable.
I'll get back to you on that one. I can ask the IS director about that.
Okay, sounds good.
We have a question in the chat.
Okay.
Carol Larson would like to know, what are your thoughts on raising the number of county commissioners upward to reflect the increase in population?
Interesting. I have no comment on that. No, that's not true. I do. It will mean you will need to enact a charter, I believe. You'll have to have a charter commission. It would be if we did go that route, it would be interesting to look at some of the other elected positions. Don't tell them I said that. But does it make sense to have an assessor and a treasurer? In Pierce, there's an assessor treasurer. Does it make sense to have an elected Superior Court clerk? So those are great opportunities for a county that's growing in size to look at their structure. Even though right now our commissioners play both the executive and the policy arm, they have a county administrator to advise them on issues. That my position would go away. You would need to examine whether you would want an elected county executive, whether the county's big enough to support that, or whether you'd want to structure differently administratively. But whether you have 3, whether you have 5, it's always important to have the professional staff guiding them so that they don't feel overwhelmed by the day-to-day, and so that they can be that research arm if they need it, if they have an issue that takes some time to evaluate. So.
Well, one of the things that when I read about you being hired, I believe is it Ron Gelder?
Rob
Gelder said that before you were hired, the president had those responsibilities, but that the president changed every year so that there was no continuity. So
so the county administrator dates back to the, I believe, the 80s. I don't remember what the exact date was.
I think 1998.
1998. Okay.
So.
And it has evolved. The county was without one for a while when during the recession. That was when Nancy Bonanno-Grannon went to King County. And the chair of the board at the time, I think, was trying to serve dual roles. Before me, there was a gentleman in the position for about 7 months. And when I came on, I thought, okay, good, 7 months. If I can beat 7 months, I'm golden. So it's the way that I've always viewed the position is I'm the internal face. I'm the one that's working on making sure that county operations go smoothly, that we adhere to the commissioners' policies and guidelines and programs. That allows the commissioners to face externally and work with the public, work with their constituents, go out into the community pre-pandemic, and make sure that they're communicating and explaining what the county's doing. So it's people. I have contemporaries who I'm thinking of Thurston County, where my ex-Pierce County coworker Ramiro Chavez has all the departments, not just the internal but the external facing ones. And so each county is structured differently. I like this. For me, this works. For my personality, it works. I don't, you give me 4 departments, you give me 8 departments, it doesn't really matter, as long as I have a good relationship with the department directors. And to a person, I just am tickled by the department directors that we have working here in Kitsap. I just think they're exceptional people. They're all dedicated to providing good quality service and being efficient and effective. And they've just been a joy to work with.
Mhm.
So given the pandemic made all kinds of changes, I'm sure, to how you had to operate, are there things that that will continue, that prove to be successful and change how you do your work?
Not necessarily how I do my work, but how we as a county operate. In March of 2020, we really had to pivot. And with our workforce going partially virtual, that made us embrace telecommuting whether we liked it or not. And we have people who are skeptical, who overnight had to just kind of accept it and deal with making sure that their employees are engaged in meeting targets, and that you as a supervisor can say, yes, I know that they're doing their work. That allowed people to handle childcare, to deal with the uncertainty of the pandemic, and so I think that's a benefit or a working condition for several classifications that's here to stay. On the flip side, we're going to need to work on what does that mean to our operations. Do we need all the square footage? Do we need every building that we have right now? And we really can't answer that question until we're out of the pandemic and people decide whether they like the hybrid, whether they want to come back to the office. We know that people missed us being open. The day that we opened back the county administration building in what was it, June of 21, we had 95 people waiting outside the door. They all wanted to come see the auditor. And so we know that we're not going to be able to get away from that in-person presence. That's just, there's a need there that needs to be fulfilled. Now, does that mean we're going to stay with the same 8 to 5 or the old model? I don't think so. And I think people are very comfortable now. At least the people that come and see us regularly have gotten used to DCD's got staggered hours, but they also have live chat. They have video appointments. They have a robust online information system where you can upload your permit and pay your fees. So those that use that service frequently are embracing it and liking it, but we also need to stay open for some hours and make those hours public to deal with those who still have the need to walk in and ask a question. Same for the assessor, treasurer. The auditor has maintained their hours. They had a staffing shortage where they had to close over the noon hours, but I'd noticed they've opened up again. So they're keeping the pretty consistent hours.
Is there a problem for your employees with boundaries? And like, I find because of the internet, you're so available for 24 hours a day that it's almost overwhelming. How do you help people set boundaries? I mean,
I think we equip them with tools. Teams has a feature where you can set yourself as unavailable or do not disturb. I find that during the workday, though, people will chat with you and send you instant messages. and so sometimes you just have to ignore that feature. But people have been getting pretty good about saying, okay, I'm going to be out at this time. I'm going to block my calendar. I'm not going to accept calls or messages during this time. So I think people have so far been able to handle that.
I had another question I wanted to kind of toss out, and Maureen mentioned we're working on updating this Know Your County resource book.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've been working on different parts of that and thinking about all the different programs and services and resources available to the public, I'm curious what you think are maybe the top 3 areas or things that are the least understood by our citizens and people in Kitsap County.
The least understood.
Or maybe not understood, but just maybe not even aware of.
Well, we've had some issues at the Olympic View transfer station, and we've had to close it because there was a compactor down. And I think that that generated a lot more calls than was anticipated. And that coming on the heels of, we had some waste management, who's the waste collector, had some labor issues, and so they were missing pickups. So there was this kind of this tsunami of negativism or collection of garbage that went on for a couple of weeks. And I don't think most people realize that garbage is just one of the things that Public Works is responsible for. We contract with Waste Management to do the pickup, and then we contract with Waste Management to do the disposal. People rely on that curbside pickup or that transfer station to be available so they can dump their load. And when that's not available, people get a little irritated. The other issue, snow and ice removal. That's another one that tends to get a lot of hate and discontent during the winter years or winter months. And that's where we saw a real impact in our labor group, because we were right before the snow and ice event, we were seeing a lot of qualified CDL drivers, I'll say guys in a gender neutral way, who had a lot of experience driving snow plows up and down county roads and kind of knew where all the mailboxes were and knew where the bends in the road that they need to avoid. We saw them being poached away by other entities. And that was part and parcel of why we were looking at our retention incentive program. But when we're not there to do that work, people are unhappy. When you aren't there to do that work, people realize, oh, that's your responsibility. And so that's kind of you don't miss us until we're gone sort of situation. So, and there's no one else in the organization that's going to step up and do sewer treatment or road unincorporated clearing or road work in the unincorporated areas, or Superior Court. There's no backup if the county decided or that it couldn't do that service anymore. So it's a struggle to be able to maintain the non-law and justice features in the general fund, because law and justice tends to kind of munch away at the general fund. Right now, it's 70% of the general fund. So we really have to work hard to make sure that we maintain those other core services. And it's a challenge. I don't know if I answered your question, Linda, so yes, feel free to ask me any follow-up.
It goes along with something I read about at the federal level. People don't realize what services they're receiving. And so until, as you say, it's taken away, they don't appreciate the fact that it's there for them. Well, we're coming on the Question, Janice, sorry.
Well, I just like to say in regards to that, that I hear much from my neighbors and friends how much we appreciate all those services. I mean, it's amazing. I live out in Holly at the end of the Seabeck Holly Road.
You
And-
got hit pretty
and
hard
it-
during the snow and ice event.
Yeah, but I mean, it's amazing what people do to come and clear the roads. And also the garbage pickup is really amazing. And what you hear from, you hear from people who are discontented, but you don't hear from all the many, many, many people who are really, really pleased with the services that the county serves. So
Thank you for that.
take that away.
Yeah, I'll take that away. I'll take that any day.
We really appreciate you
Yeah,
and all you provide.
I'll pass that along to our public works staff.
We're at the end of our hour, but I wonder if we close with a question like, do you have a wish? Something that you would like to see happen for the county,
For the county,
for you, your department?
it's going to sound kind of trite, but I wish for peace in Ukraine. I'm really concerned about the war, the conflict broadening out, its impact it might have on the shipyard, or the impact it might have on the naval base in terms of deployment of troops and deployment of resources. The impact it's going to have on the supply chain, on the economy, on the food, food resources. So we haven't felt it yet here directly. I hope we don't. So I guess that's my hope for today.
All right. Well, that's not trite. Thank you. Anything before we close?
Just a heartfelt thank you.
Yes, thank you, Karen.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it, and I now that I've had this experience, I look forward to the next opportunity. And if I can be of any service, please let me know.
Spread the word.
Okay.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Karen. Have a good evening.
Thank you.